Welcome to the Pugilist Place Podcast, broadcasting live from historic downtown Riverside, California. My name is Lawrence Mejia. We are incredibly thankful that you are here. Please follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Pugilist Place. Lastly, please visit thepugilistplace.com for all things boxing. Let's get right to it. First topic of conversation, Triple G's next fight. Current IBF middleweight titleist Gennady Golovkin recently told Sports Illustrated that he would not fight Saul Canelo Alvarez in his first match once boxing returns. In March, before the onset of the coronavirus pandemic, Sports Illustrated's Chris Mannix reported that two-time middleweight champion Golovkin and current lineal middleweight king Alvarez had come to financial terms on a third fight, which was to take place in September and air live on DAZN. Both Golovkin and Alvarez were to fight once before heading into their showdown on Mexican Independence Weekend against Camille Zerameta and reportedly Billy Joe Saunders, respectively. With fight dates getting delayed due to COVID-19, many wondered if Golovkin and Alvarez would forego their previously scheduled opponents and opt to face one another in their first post-pandemic match. Golovkin, a Kazakhstan native residing in Santa Monica, California, recently answered that question, ending speculation. Quote, "I made a commitment before all this situation with the coronavirus happened," Golovkin told Sports Illustrated. "I'm talking about my fight with Zerameta. I intend to keep my word. Once the situation changes, as soon as everything is back to normal, I intend to have this fight first." Close quote. Golovkin appeared to be fervently pursuing a third contest with Alvarez, believing he won the first two encounters. Talks broke down last September for a third fight when Golovkin balked at the idea of fighting Alvarez in Las Vegas, a location he deemed was impossible to win a decision against Canelo. And Alvarez allowed his dislike of Golovkin, emanating from comments Gennady and Abel Sanchez made in light of Alvarez testing positive for a banned substance, to compel him to move on and fight Sergey Kovalev instead in November. After fighting Steve Rolls and Sergey Derevyanchenko, in both post-fight interviews, Golovkin seemed consistent in his desire to, again, square off against Alvarez. Quote, "I should point out that there is always two sides," Golovkin said. "They actually avoided this fight in September. They didn't want to fight in May of 2020, so I went my way. I have my own career, and I figured, how long should I wait?" Close quote. If they were to have faced off in September, neither boxer would have seemed to be unfairly handicapped by inactivity, as both had their last fights at about the same time, Golovkin last October and Alvarez last November. Perhaps Golovkin is looking to get another training camp under his belt with Jonathan Banks, whom he has worked with twice before. Golovkin notably parted ways with longtime trainer Abel Sanchez after he signed a reported 9-figure contract with DAZN in March 2019. There is still a possibility that Alvarez of Guadalajara, Mexico, and Golovkin could meet at the end of 2020, perhaps in December. This would provide Golovkin, whose record is 40 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 35 knockouts, the opportunity to fulfill his obligation to fight Zerameta and allow Alvarez to potentially still challenge Saunders in September. However, one thing appears to be clear. At 38 years old, the clock is ticking on the career of Golovkin, who was hit more than we are used to seeing in his fights against Rolls and Derevyanchenko. Our second topic of conversation will be Andy Ruiz pairing with Eddy Reynoso. Former unified heavyweight champion of the world Andy Ruiz revealed on social media last week that he will be working with 2019 Boxing Writers Association of America Trainer of the Year Eddy Reynoso. Ruiz, the first heavyweight world champion of Mexican descent, had been a free agent of sorts after parting ways with his previous trainer, Manny Robles, who helped devise the blueprint to beat the previously undefeated Anthony Joshua in their first match. Ruiz had been linked to Teddy Atlas, reportedly speaking with the trainer who had worked with Mike Tyson and guided Michael Moore to a heavyweight title. Reynoso's most high-profile athlete is obviously lineal middleweight champion Saul Canelo Alvarez. However, Ruiz will be joining a talented group of fighters that includes former featherweight titleist Oscar Valdez, former bantamweight belt holder Luis Neri, and rising lightweight star Ryan Garcia. Quote, "Welcome to the team, Andy. We are going to do well," close quote, Reynoso stated in a social media post. Ruiz shot to the top of the boxing world last June when he spoiled Joshua's stateside homecoming at Madison Square Garden in New York City, knocking the British fighter down 4 times before finally knocking him out in round 7 and lifting the WBA, IBF, and WBO belts. It was the biggest upset in heavyweight boxing since Hasim Rahman knocked out Lennox Lewis for the heavyweight crown in the 5th round in South Africa in 2001. Although he features a soft, and some might say chubby physique, Ruiz has undeniable boxing skills. In particular, his quick hand speed, which, if an opponent ventures too close, can put any heavyweight to sleep. Before the Joshua fight, Ruiz came just short in his first world title attempt, dropping a majority decision to then WBO champion Joseph Parker. However, after earning the biggest victory of his career against Joshua, Ruiz admitted to indulging too much in the celebratory afterglow of his historic win. Ruiz weighed in approximately 30 pounds heavier, around 180 pounds, for his rematch with Joshua and was thoroughly outboxed, losing in his first title defense by 12-round unanimous decision and giving the unified titles right back to Joshua. Ruiz finds himself in an intriguing camp with Reynoso. In addition to helping keep Alvarez razor-focused and atop the pound-for-pound rankings, Reynoso's tutelage has appeared to work wonders for Ryan Garcia, who has steadily improved in performance since pairing with the Mexican trainer. With all of that said, it is likely up to Ruiz in terms of how successful that partnership actually becomes. If Ruiz demonstrates focus and dedication to his conditioning, we might be talking about a fighter that can, at age 30, still make noise in the heavyweight division and possibly become a belt holder once again. Our next topic of conversation, Mike Tyson, who has spurred comeback speculations with his recent social media video posts. Former undisputed world heavyweight champion Mike Tyson has recently generated quite a buzz across the boxing world by posting several videos of him doing mitt work to social media. In the short video clips, Tyson shows flashes of his younger self, blasting the pads with the same ferocious blend of speed and power that helped to make him such a terrifying figure in the 1980s. The videos have led to speculation that the 53-year-old Tyson might be contemplating a return to the ring. Initially, Tyson, the youngest man to win a heavyweight title, had publicly mentioned the possibility of participating in exhibition bouts. However, yesterday, Tyson gave an indication that his workouts might be for more than just exhibitions. Quote, "It may not be over yet," close quote, Tyson said during a Facebook live stream. Quote, "Anything's possible. I feel unstoppable now. The gods of war have reawakened me, ignited my ego, and want me to go to war again. I feel like I'm young again, close quote. According to Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, Tyson was offered $20 million to fight an opponent from their current stable of fighters. And he's not the only one. Other former professional heavyweight champions have also announced that they are currently training once again. Among them are former 3-time world champion Lennox Lewis and former 4-time world champion Evander Holyfield. Ostensibly, said fighters are preparing to compete in exhibition bouts. Nevertheless, it remains to be seen just which route Tyson will take. The aura of Tyson runs deep in the psyche of American society. En route to becoming the baddest man on the planet in the 1980s, Tyson mesmerized both national and international audiences with his destructive abilities inside the ring as well as his mystique. However, much of that magic was erased in what would become the greatest upset in sports history, when 42-1 underdog James Buster Douglas knocked out Tyson in round 10 in Tokyo, Japan in February 1990. From the year 2000 until the end of his career, Tyson featured a record of 4 wins, 3 losses with 4 KOs with 2 no contests, quitting in the 6th round of his final fight in 2005 against unheralded journeyman Kevin McBride. Tyson currently has a successful podcast, cannabis business, not to mention his cameos in Hollywood films, and appears to be in a much better place from where he was in the mid-2000s, a time in which he battled legal issues and substance abuse problems. Whatever comes from Tyson's time in the gym, one can only hope that it is helpful to him physically and financially. No one wants to see Tyson, who has given so much of himself for our entertainment, hurt in the ring. And finally, we'll briefly touch upon what boxing might look like when it returns. Dana White and the UFC staged UFC 249 this past weekend, making it the first professional sporting event to return post-coronavirus. The event appeared to be a commercial success, registering upwards of 700,000 pay-per-view buys from a sports-deprived public. New safety guidelines were implemented for the event, such as no fans in attendance and COVID-19 testing before the event. In fact, it was UFC's testing prior to Saturday's event that uncovered positive test results for one of the fighters, Jacare Souza, and 2 of his cornermen. It is certainly a positive development that UFC's testing protocol discovered Souza, who was asymptomatic, and removed him from the card. However, according to an article in Yahoo Sports, video footage showed Souza mingling with other fighters and staff before becoming aware of his positive test result, which begs the question of, did he infect his team and put others at unnecessary risk of contracting the virus? Whereas Dana White seemed to be primarily concerned with being the first to hold a professional combat sporting event in the United States, thus providing a blueprint, boxing's power brokers appear to be slightly more cautious, taking into account more seriously the issue of safety. Many boxing promoters have been in daily contact with state athletic commissions and sanctioning bodies regarding how to stage live boxing events during the ongoing pandemic. And the one reoccurring word you pick up on is that of safety. Bob Arum has recently gone on record as saying that Top Rank is aiming for June as the month that they will begin holding fight cards again. Arum, in an interview with Sports Illustrated's Chris Mannix, revealed that his hope is that fighters will arrive at a hotel, likely in Las Vegas, approximately 2 weeks before their scheduled fight. Presumably, this will be the location that the event will be held at, with the card possibly taking place in a grand ballroom or other similar space, Las Vegas makes practical sense for Arum due to the fact that Top Rank's headquarters is based there. Upon arrival, fighters and their cornermen would be tested. They would remain isolated in the hotel, which would be sanitized, for the remaining 2 weeks leading up to the event. The fighters and their teams would be fed by hotel staff who would also be tested. A sanitized gym would be made available for all of the fighters involved for their training leads leading up to the fight. The boxers would again be tested just before their bouts, possibly at weigh-ins. The staff participating in the event would also be tested. Arum, in all of his interviews, reiterated the issue of safety. Golden Boy Promotions, who aims to relaunch on July 4 with lightweight rising star Ryan Garcia as the headliner, stated that their cards will be shorter. Instead of 8 to 10 fights for an event, you will see 4 to 5, thus limiting the amount of people at a particular location and their potential exposure. The WBC issued recommended guidelines last week, one of which created a particular stir. Mauricio Suleiman, the current WBC president, suggested that judging be done remotely at home to limit vulnerability to the virus. Many have come out in condemnation of that idea, citing the differences in perspective in viewing a fight in person and on television. Having had the privilege of covering fights ringside, I can attest to the differences in viewing experience. Whereas you might not get as many obstructions watching a fight on television, you get a different indication of a fighter's effectiveness watching up close and personal. From the sound of the punches as they land to how far sweat flies off of an opponent being hit, I believe an in-person judge would have the opportunity to score a fight more accurately. Nevertheless, I can completely appreciate the attempt to limit anyone's exposure to this virus. Also, some have wondered what might occur if a judge's Wi-Fi goes out, and if they might be biased by people watching with them or from text messages they might receive during a fight. But opinions were not unanimously against remote judging. Showtime boxing executive Steven Espinoza said that remote judging would allow judges to not be swayed by the emotions of the crowd. So, although remote judging seems to be a contentious issue, there doesn't seem to be uniformity in terms of being against it. Well, we're all out of time for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Lawrence Mejia, reminding you, as always, keep punching.